Here's an edgy take for you. This is a good one. You've never heard this one before, right? I'm calling it right now. At this point in his career, Selfmade needs to do an enormous transformation as both a player and a human, or he ain't going to make it. He's not going to be a champion in the LEC. Because this motherfucker is now the forgiven of the jungle role. Because think about it, right? What player did he ever make better as the jungler? Nobody. He just made himself the star. Now, don't worry. If it's the right meta, these guys' mechanics and monsters like Forgiven. He can look the best at his role, but then you always go, well, he's the best at his role, but the others are all holding him back. It's like, wait a minute. When do you ever make them better? Like, a star player also makes people around him better. Like, as much as I don't like Niski's style of play, he inarguably made Cloud9 better, in my opinion, in that weird, like, I don't think he's very good in this Fnatic. I think it was a weird move, but whatever. I get the premise of what they were going for there. My problem with the Selfmade one is this. When I saw this lineup made, look, I meme on Fnatic, but I actually thought to myself, look, there's basically nothing here remaining from like the old school champion Fnatic, so it shouldn't be the best team. In fact, realistically, I even said at the beginning, I didn't even think they'd be second best. I thought they'd be like third, fourth, sort of where they roughly are now if they hadn't tanked the end of the split completely. But when I looked at this lineup, I was like, there's only two people in this team have a chance. Upset and Selfmade have to have the fucking splits of their life. And if they do that and one of them is the MVP, maybe they can challenge the top teams. Instead, like you say, the upset angle, it's like he's playing well within context, but he's not the best ADC in the league. No one's even debating that. Selfmade is actually playing terribly. It looks like he's had one of his worst splits ever. And I just think back to the last teams he was in. So he was in the SK team with no good players. So you gave him a pass that he was just only the one carrying himself and all of it was on his shoulders. But even in the Fnatic team last year, dude, he didn't even have synergy with Nemesis. So it was his old fucking teammate from like 3 years earlier. Like, I think this guy's got some real issues because in my opinion, you look at this team, all they do is they win off Bwipo not inting. That's like the fucking blackboard behind them. And by the way, if you don't know Bwipo's style of play, you have to go through the ints to get to the wins.
Yes,
that's why it's the most dangerous style of play in the entire world. Like, to me, that can't win the LEC, that style. And I have to put some of it on Selfmade because, as I say, like, look, if there's one thing you can't say about Niski, he's obviously a good teammate. As Kaiser says, he's doing what he needs to be done. So if you're someone like Selfmade, the reason I give the contrast to Forgiven is I've often told people this story is I didn't need to wait until 2020 to know Forgiven was actually fucked in the head. I knew when he made top 4 at Worlds with that H2K team and still complained about every member of the team not being good enough and letting him down. I just remember turning to him and going, who do you think you're going to get as your teammates? What's going on here? And the best part is, at the time I remember thinking, who's even available? Who's better than them? What, like Expect and so on? He just had them as his teammates the next year and fucking imploded instantly. So it's the same thing. It's like Selfmade. Jungle is not a solo role, mate. You're never going to have a whole year where you can 1v9. So you have to be able to make other people better, even if sometimes that might mean taking a hit yourself.
Well, and it's also in this meta, right? In this year's meta and in the meta that we saw at Worlds, right? How does it get better for him? Because this should be the meta where, you know, it's a rare carry jungle meta where he has all the resources available to him. And then when Nemesis leaves, who do they go out and get? They get Niski, the dude who literally leaves lane to fight for crabs for Blabber. Like, they got the most selfless mid laner ever, who loves roaming, who loves just supporting his jungler in the river early, who loves supporting his junglers in invades. Like, it doesn't get better than this for Selfmade. Like, this is literally the peak amount of resources that you can give a jungler in the game of League of Legends.
Yeah, but here's the thing, Monty. I already know. Listen, I don't know Selfmade as a person, so I'm joking when I say this, but I already know because I'm going to go in the Forgiven mindset. It's like what Forgiven used to also do, right? You would think Forgiven's favourite jungler ever would be Jankos, right? The first Blood King who ganks all the time in that era. Of course I want that as my jungler if I'm the AD carry. Call him bot lane all the time, but as you know from that Summoning Insight episode we did, where Jankos just explained that story, where it's like when he once came bot lane, when Forgiven didn't think they technically needed to and could have won the fight 2v3, he was like, what the fuck are you doing? You should have been farming a camp elsewhere. I think Selfmade's like that. I think he's so fucked in the head. His logic is, because he comes from like fucking, like he imagines, spoiler, it wasn't really Bane, but Bane in the movie was supposed to have crawled out of that pit. Because he came from all these shit teams. I think in his world, I'm not joking, he doesn't want a mid laner that plays for him. He wants the mid laner to just be the best mid laner, smash the mid lane, and then he'll just do whatever he does around him. And it's like, listen, that doesn't concern you what I'm doing. So I agree with him on paper. It should have been his dream jungle. It should have been like the butler that would help him be the king.
Yes.
But he thinks he has to do it all himself, like his name, doesn't he?
Wow. Well, yeah, I think it's an interesting problem, but I really, it's very difficult to see Fnatic having a consistently strong performance, even if they can create an upset or two in the playoffs.
That's great, isn't it?
Just
yeah. I'm loving it.
Like,
You guys like it?
You just like seeing the Fnatic fans
Dude,
slowly
dissolve.
Here's
what I love. Here's what I fucking love is that Kaiser, you were around this level of the ERLs when Larson was coming up in the Rogue Academy team, and then remember he was still in Academy, even though in theory they had one of the best teams back when all those players came from mid lane. Humanoid, Nemesis, Abadagi, everyone was hyping the fuck out of all these guys. Even Abadagi, by the way, they were even hyping him at the beginning, like he's got really good mechanics or whatever. Nobody was saying a word about Larson because people in League of Legends don't have an eye test. So unless you play super flashy, they don't know that you're good. If you go off in a game, anyone can say you've got 4 kills or whatever. So they were just like, Larson's just a good player, right? What's great about Fnatic is this. Rogue isn't like the most wealthy team in the world. They don't have players that are like, I would never leave Rogue. Dude, half the players would leave in any off-season if you had the money. So Fnatic has not only fucked up the game part of it, they fucked up their business so hard that in the span of 1 calendar year, Rogue has a better roster than they do. Like, Sam Matthews, mate, just turn off the light on the way out the door. At least that way when the motherfucker shuts down, we won't just waste the last bit of energy. Just,